All right, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Jay, and I decided to do a little quick video to give my thoughts on the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight. And I don't know. I guess over the last, it's been what, a year and a half, 2 years since the original comments started flying around the time when Ronda Rousey was talking about she could beat Floyd, and Floyd was like, "Well, I put hands on people, so you can't beat me," and then Conor got into it, whatever. So I don't know. I just remember it hitting my radar at that point. But anyway, um, I found it interesting. There wasn't a lot of footage of their training sessions, which isn't common. That's not an uncommon thing when it comes to the world of boxing. So I'm not too put off by that. But I was curious to see just how the two would match up in the ring, and I felt like tonight was it was interesting. It was respectable. I just want to start with that. It was respectable. I didn't feel like it was disrespectful to the sport of boxing. I feel like Conor McGregor actually was quite the challenge. He wasn't an easy. He wasn't a pushover. I feel like he definitely, based on my observation of the first probably 4 to 5 rounds, I feel like he definitely won the first 4 to 5 rounds based on the style that he was using and the fact that he was scoring points, and he was very formidable. He definitely had the hands that he needed to score the points that he earned in those first couple of rounds. And I think that as time wore on, I feel like I think frustration set in, and I'm looking forward to watching some of the press stuff shortly after the fight. I ended up leaving the fight party because it was just late, and I'm trying to beat all the drunk drivers and not run into them on the road. So I didn't stay the whole time. But I'm curious to see what type of what type of commentary people are sharing as a result of the fight and how it finished out. But I do feel like I feel like there was a something that was happening that was causing frustration. And I mean, I think most everybody who watched the fight will kind of will agree with me that Mayweather, he he's always been known as a tactician. So his fighting style, he modifies it based on who he's going up against. And I feel like he either was attempting to do one or two things, knowing that Conor's natural instinct would be to grapple and do the whole hammer punch thing to an illegal area of the body. I think that was a strategy, like where you would see them wrap up, and then I noticed that early on Floyd would bend over and he'd go almost into a fetal position to some degree. He's a standing fetal position. I'm not going to make it sound like he was on the ground balled up, but he would go into like a standing fetal position. He would dip his forehead down, and then he would rotate his body away, and that would force Conor to be kind of wrapped up, kind of beside him, and all of a sudden the back of his head was exposed. And he did it for the first probably 5 or 6 rounds. And then I noticed right around maybe the sixth round, I felt like there was a moment where you could clearly hear the referee telling Floyd to stop doing it, because he clearly was doing something to impact, to influence Conor's tendency to want to go kind of MMA on him and take that opportunity to strike. And so I felt like that was deliberate, either to force a disqualification, which is smart on his part, or to have the referee keep having to regulate Conor McGregor and frustrate him. Because every time, like, what do you do when somebody tells you to stop doing something, but then your opponent puts you back in the same situation? It's like they're still dangling the carrot in front of you. So you get frustrated, you get annoyed at some point, because you're like, well, the ref is saying, hey, Conor, stop with the karate chop hack shot to the back of his head. But then Conor's looking at Floyd like, well, he keeps turning around, dropping his body while we're grappling, and that's not a typical thing that boxers do, So it gets frustrating, and eventually, like I said, by the time it was regulated, it was a little too late, because by then Floyd had landed a couple of crosses, and one of them was a real solid one in the ninth. Well, actually, the ninth round, it was a struggle. He was on a struggle bus in the ninth round, but going into the 10th, it was over when he caught him with I guess that was a left cross that caught him right at the base of the neck. And after that, it was fiddlesticks after that, man. His legs was wobbly. and I felt like he was done for at that point. But that being, that aside, I feel like the only thing that kind of was, I wish I would have seen more of. I wish I would have seen um, more power punches from Conor. I felt like he pulled his punches a few times, and I know I got a few friends out there that are really into boxing, so you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I felt like he pulled some of his punches. He would have like 2 and 3 punch combos, and if he just went for that third punch, he might actually make contact. But the risk is that you're fighting against the best fighter in your weight class and pound for pound, so you miss on the third punch and you might expose yourself, especially if you try to make that third punch something that moves his body a little bit. So I understand why he might have pulled on the punches, but I felt like he had several missed opportunities because, oddly enough, believe it or not, I felt like his hands were on point. Like, that right jab was no joke. Like, his right jab kept Floyd at a distance for a long period of time, and it wasn't until the end when his hands started to drop, when the fatigue set in, that the jab became ineffective at that point. But his right jab was no joke, and then when he switched his stance, his left jab was actually pretty formidable too. He didn't do it enough though. He stayed with the southpaw stance most of the fight. So I felt like that was interesting on his part, just as a casual observer of boxing. I felt like he actually did a good job. I think that Floyd did what he was supposed to do. He's a tactician. Like, I didn't see him approaching the boxing match any different. The one thing that I do say I noticed was that he was definitely more headstrong. He more direct in his style. There was none of that, managing the match in 3 separate stages where the score your point stage, and then the next round he's running from you. Then the next round he's closing up and letting you beat on him a little bit. Then he's rested, so now he lets you tire yourself out, and he goes back in the next round and scores points, and then he repeats the whole process. He didn't do that this time. He was actually trying to size up his opponent, and he was going directly at him because obviously he knew in time he would either, 1, frustrate him, or 2, he would wear him down with stamina. Because the reality is that MMA fighters just aren't built to go that long. Now, the way the MMA fighters fight, yeah, if that was the situation, I think obviously Conor McGregor could probably have lasted a little bit longer, because he, like one of the announcers said, he would have his ways of getting some breaks, finding ways to rest his body and recover from a rough exchange with his opponent. But in boxing, it's a little bit different, because a lot of that requires some grappling. It requires some parrying. It requires some punch avoidance, but at the same time being able to slow down the other person long enough to take those deep breaths and get your legs back up under you. And he just didn't have that experience to really do that effectively against a boxer that knows that that's what he wants to do. Like, Floyd knew he had him beat when at that point when he's fatigued, because he knew that Conor probably couldn't avoid that situation, or recover or manage it correctly. I was amazed in the 9th round. Conor, he held out. He managed to survive the 9th round. He was on the ropes that entire time for the most part. I think the official wanted to call it then, but there were a few moments when he was able to still get his hands up. He was able to still throw punches. He was able to elude a couple of shots that would have cleaned him up too. So that's the only reason why I think he survived, is that he actually was able to still defend himself. But it was pretty dicey in the 9th round. Overall, it was respectable. I mean, again, he went 10 rounds with a guy that is the best in the world at what he does. Like, that's respectable, because the average Joe doesn't make it out of the first 15 seconds with a guy like Floyd Mayweather. So I feel like overall it was better than I expected. I mean, I knew that it would be a respectable. I wanted to see a respectable fight. I didn't want to see something that would tarnish the legacy of Floyd Mayweather or ruin the sport of boxing, because it's just a mockery of the sport, and it wasn't the case. What I saw with the other observers at the fight party, I feel like everybody, it was mixed at first. Some people in the crowd wanted to see Floyd get it, others wanted to see McGregor get it. There was a lot of talk about, McGregor is not going to be able to defend himself, handle the situation, blah blah blah. But then by the end of the first round, it was pretty obvious. Like he was inexperienced, but he wasn't overmatched, and that's what I think stood out. And it changed the dynamic. It was almost like watching a Rocky 1. It was like watching Rocky. It really was. It was a real life version of Rocky Balboa going up against Apollo Creed, and I think that he earned people's respect as a boxer. Now, granted, he still got a long way to go. So I know I got some friends out there that's probably gonna look at that and hear what I just said and be ready to rip me a new one. But I feel like he just needed. He earned the respect of people that appreciate the sport of boxing. Now, whether he decides to stick with it, that remains to be seen. Who knows? If I were him, I would definitely, if he's gonna stick with it, obviously he wants to get fights with other boxers. But these other boxers, if he decides to do it, they're gonna have to work. Like, he's not gonna be a pushover, and that's what I got out of this fight, is that he's not a pushover. The other thing that I'm curious to see too. I mean, I'm not really a huge hardcore MMA fan, but I am curious to see how much this training and this prep will impact his fighting in the octagon. That's going to be interesting, because he definitely demonstrated something that's going to be quite useful in the octagon, especially in his stand-up game. I mean, he was already known as a strong hitter, as a strong counter puncher, a very elusive, upright fighter. But now, boy, wow, I don't know. Like, that's gonna be interesting to see, and especially when that boxing is a really important skill to have as an MMA combatant, I think, or a fighter. I think that's going to be interesting. So all in all, I think that the fight was definitely respectable. I know a lot of people were probably thinking it was going to be lopsided. I talked to friends. They said he wasn't going to make it out of the fourth round. Somebody else I talked to said he wasn't going to make it out of 7. Well, first of all, he won the first 4 rounds, and my argument is he also probably won the 5th round too. That's crazy. I can't wait to see the official scorecard. That's all I have to say. I want to see the official scorecard. I imagine they'll probably release it maybe later tonight or tomorrow sometime. But I want to see the actual round for round, just to see that. And something else that I do have to say, I gained a little bit more respect for Floyd Mayweather as a man, and how he handled the first post-fight interview. He gave his opponent the credit he deserved. He didn't disrespect him. He definitely gave him. He acknowledged that to some degree that was a real fight. There was nothing phony about this fight. Like, he recognized Conor McGregor and his heart and his passion, and I thought that was really cool. Unfortunately, I couldn't understand much of what Conor was saying, but because of his accent. But I think that he probably, there were points where I definitely think he referenced the same things with Floyd, that there was nothing but mutual respect. And I mean, and that's what boxing is. I mean, you always get the show and the antics beforehand. I mean, look at Muhammad Ali did the same thing. I mean, every boxer has always done it, but then once you get in the ring and it's all said and done, you have to give respect where respect is due. And I feel like he definitely, I think both fighters did that. I think that they both gave respect where it was due, and they both earned respect. Like I said, so cool fight. I don't know if other crossover athletes, I don't know if there will be others like that try to cross over MMA to professional boxing. It can probably happen, but I don't think you don't do it against a Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao type guy. You might want to go after somebody who's early on in their career and build your experience up from there. I think Conor McGregor was literally like the one anomaly. Like, he's the asterisk, but he does give hope to people that do want to cross over, because he demonstrated that it's possible. It's definitely possible to transition from MMA to professional boxing with the right training, with the right opponents, with the right preparation. And that's what I think this fight was all about, was just showing that there's a much broader, there's a much larger stage for combat sports. And I think that he proved it. Now, I don't ever imagine a boxer transitioning to MMA. It's just too much that they would, have to learn as far as the grappling game, the ground game, the various wrestling styles. I mean, it can happen, but it's gonna take time. I don't think Floyd Mayweather lasts one round in MMA bout. It doesn't work like that, you know. So, but then who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, I'm posting another video like some boxer that made the transition to MMA and went 3 rounds in the octagon and it was respectable. I don't know, but in the meantime, I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's a good fight. It was definitely an interesting experience. It's an interesting observation in sports. It made me appreciate it just a little bit. You know, both boxing and MMA. I'm definitely gonna keep tabs on what McGregor does when he transitions back to his home sport, if you want to call it that. And Mayweather, well, go ahead and pay your taxes. That's all I gotta say. I'm out.